I will not rest until we go full Jan 6 committee on the Jeffrey Epstein files and every single client that was associated with this thing has an FBI agent at their door on their phone going after them the same way they went after the Jan 6ers and the peaceful patriots and the praying grandmothers that were on those steps. That's how we should go after every single person that was in the Epstein client list. And Pam Bondi brought me to the White House and handed me a stack of papers. And I got to tell you, folks, it was about as valuable as a bunch of blank pages. It was baloney. It was a binder of absolute baloney. And Pam, if you can't do your job, we'll find someone who will. Because that's what this is. But this isn't personal. It's not personal at all. It's about understanding who controls this nation? Who rules? Do the people rule, or do the men in dark suits in Washington, D.C. rule? The men in shadowy networks and shadowy ledgers going to tropical islands. That's what we need to find out, and that's what we need to know. And boys, earmuffs for a second, but let me tell you something. If anyone out there with an R or a D is caught suppressing information to protect a child rapist, then you belong behind bars too. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of it. And I'm sick of being lied to. I'm sick of being personally used in these discussions. So look, if you want to have a conversation, we'll have a conversation. But if you want to fight, you got one.
The tough guy routine is always a constant here. Pam Bondi, if you're not, I'm going to say this clearly to you. That's the setup so that everybody can get there, on the edge of their seats, get ready to clap. So, Pam Bondi, if you can't do your job, we'll find someone who can. Oh, man, that's a killer line. Boy, this is basic. Again, the whole idea is to go over the top and make sure you're ripe with anger. Distance my name from being a part of, continue to progress this entire lie about how Donald Trump has nothing to do with this. It's Pam Bondi.
She also brought in some of our best influencers, people that I care about deeply. Jack Posobiec, who's incredible. Libs of TikTok, Chaya, DC Drano. Yeah. And she gave them these binders, and she humiliated them. Yeah. And you guys know what I'm talking about? Where she did this stuff with the binders? This? And yes. You guys were upset, but you shouldn't be upset, the influencers. They were handed these binders like there was something incredible in them.
It is what you would do to an enemy. It would have been a brilliant operation had she loathed them and been looking to undermine them. The trick would have been perfect had this been Joe Biden's White House doing this to some of President Trump's most loyal supporters and media advocates. What happened was they invited all of them there to say hi to the vice president, to say hi to the president. Sure, they all went, of course. Who wouldn't go to the White House to say hello to Trump? They didn't expect anything on Epstein. So they went, they said hello, and before they knew it, they were pulled into a room with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and she had made the binders. She bragged about making the cover sheet that read Epstein Files, Phase 1, and she handed them out. And what Liz Wheeler, who was there, told me was that she told them, there's not that much in here, but another trove is coming. I'm going to get it from the FBI, but here's Phase 1. And in the meantime, then they funneled them out the back of the White House where all the press corps was. And the influencers are standing there with these binders. They didn't even know they were there for Epstein, and they looked foolish through no fault of their own. The only fault was they trusted her.
And these are some of our best people that we should have their back. Liz Wheeler's amazing, Jack Posobiec.
Yes.
And they got.
She dinged their credibility for no reason.
100%. And did they ever get an apology for that?
Those MAGA influencers that had those binders outside the back of the White House, they didn't get an apology for being giving these binders with nothing in them. So why didn't they say right away, yo, these binders have nothing in them? And I think we just got played. We got sent out the back of the White House with these binders. We weren't there for that at all. But again, the blame has to have been shifted to one person. Similar with the whole thing when they were Signalgate, when they were sending those messages about war plans. Pete Hegseth couldn't be the one to go down because he's the one everyone knew would be this sloppy with everything that he would do. So they had to find someone else within the whole network of folks that were doing wrong things and get rid of one of them, so they can continue doing the things they do and everyone forgets about it, which I guess worked, because how many people have been talking about that? How many folks have looked into further how much they've been probably sending more unsecured messages on random apps that they like to talk on about classified information? So it does work. It doesn't work just on MAGA folks. It works on everybody because there's the next scandal to then talk about. Again, I just want to point out that's why I keep talking about this, because there's a big effort to keep people from talking about this. And there's a big reason why. We haven't found that out yet. Just really quick, a recap of the timeline here. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested during Donald Trump's first administration. Jeffrey Epstein died, suicide, killed in prison during Donald Trump's first term. Afterwards, Donald Trump then came out and was talking about how he's going to run on releasing all the files that apparently were collected and put together during his first term. So I guess their thought process is once Biden was in office, that 4 years, something corrupt happened to all that stuff that he was hiding, that Trump was hiding the first time around. And then after that, it was all Joe Biden's fault. So now that they're not releasing anything, that all happened during Donald Trump's first term, suddenly it's someone else's fault. I'm gonna show you guys this guy. Maybe you've heard of him. He was also at this event. Tucker Carlson here is upset about the way we've always seen this stuff and not noticed exactly how it works. And I want to show Tucker Carlson, not because he's all of a sudden right and we should listen to him, but because when he's saying something right now, so many people are going to be like, this guy's finally saying the correct thing. Who knew that someone had this point of view? This point of view has been talked about and has been given by so many people on the left. It's just they've been called crazy radical leftists and libs and all this stuff. But now that Tucker Carlson is saying it, we should maybe listen.
The real question is not, was Jeffrey Epstein a weirdo who was abusing girls? Yes, we can answer that. The real question is, why was he doing this, on whose behalf, and where did the money come from? And those are the questions that need to be answered. And I think it's entirely fair to ask them. And it's not adequate to say anyone who asked them is somehow desecrating the memory of little girls who died in Texas. I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that.
He's making the case and changing the approach that people may have in thinking about whether or not you can criticize this country that gives so many of our politicians on both sides of the aisle all this money to do their bidding. And it continues to this day. We can see why we're still watching all these innocent folks being murdered and slaughtered in this genocide in Gaza. We see it. So now Tucker Carlson, after telling everyone to be quiet about it and calling you radicals for it before, can now say it and tell this, I guess, young audience of conservatives, you guys, we don't have to be like this. Did you know there's some other way to be? Here's the last thing from him. Then I'll move on from this guy.
And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow, that that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online, where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not?
Did you do this or not? Sorry. But again, they can have these perspectives and this point of view, and it's great. Finally have some questions for the way our politicians do the things that they do. I just still don't see the need to then kiss his ass and make it have anything to do with the folks that have been saying things like this since forever. Be like, cool, I'm glad you guys are fighting this fight. We're going to go ahead and continue to fight this fight our way, ourselves as well. Maybe enough people will finally pick up on it. Congratulations for finally telling folks that there's some of the reality besides that everything that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government does is just on point and perfect and excellent, and we should follow behind it. Fine, do that. There can be this, I guess, this coalition of Americans that don't necessarily have to like each other or like all the million other things that Tucker Carlson and his crew follow behind and do to people currently in the United States of America. The support that they still have for the way that they're snatching people off the streets, including American citizens, and putting them in random gulags, concentration camps, and overseas prisons. So that type of stuff, I think we can still disagree on all that stuff, but you can go ahead and have this fight against this aspect. I don't think any ass kissing is necessary.